My name's Tiffany Lewis. I initially studied at Deakin in 2006 when I did my graduate diploma in psychology, and then I went on in 2007 to do my doctorate in forensic psychology. I chose Deakin because the school is huge and there's people who specialise in all different areas. And at that point I was considering forensic psychology, and Deakin had quite an extensive forensic psychology faculty. So that was part of my reasoning about coming to Deakin. I think for me, the best experiences were my placements. I think I learnt the most on the job. And so during the doctorate, we did 3 placements of 200 days in total. And you know, for me in forensics, some of that was walking into a prison and running a sex offender program. And some of it was hanging out with an 11-year-old girl in a locked facility and doing a puzzle for an entire day. So I think the understanding of the different areas I could go into and experiencing that for myself before I went out and chose where my career was going to go was brilliant. At the moment, I work in a place called Secure Welfare. I work for Berry Street and Take 2, which is their therapeutic service, and I work in a place called Secure Welfare, which is a locked facility for child protection clients, and if they're at risk of immediate and substantial harm, they are placed into this unit for up to 3 weeks. So for most of these kids, this is really significant risk. They're at risk of dying in the next few days for whatever reason. And I do psych assessments on them while they're in the facility. I did a lot of things in very different fields initially. So I've worked in drug and alcohol in the community. I've worked with sex offenders in prison. Then I worked therapeutically with child protection clients. And then before I started here, I was working with Victoria Police in their sexual offence and child abuse teams. So I've sort of done a really strange range of offending work and victim work and policy work. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a typical forensic psychologist. Forensic psychology officially means anything to do with the law and psychology. So for most forensic psychologists, that mainly manifests itself in work with offenders. Whereas for me, I'm a little bit more victim focused, so my career path's sort of taken me down psychological assessment and treatment of victims. So a normal day for me would be attending the unit where I work. So I'd go out to the unit, I'd say hi to all the girls, I'd check in with how they're going, I'd speak to the team leaders and the unit managers about any potential assessments that are coming up, any meetings that I need to go to. And then if there's nothing going on at the unit, I'll come back to my office in Richmond and speak to many varied people, child protection workers, mental health workers, all those sorts of people, and write up any reports that I've got coming up. So most forensic psychologists will work within the corrections setting, so whether it's community corrections or prison, or some sort of justice-related field. So there's a lot of forensic psychs who work with drug and alcohol offenders, with violent offenders, with sex offenders, with youth justice offenders, so kids that I work with as well. There's a lot of crossover between forensic and what people would probably typically understand a psychologist to be. So there's quite a bit of crossover with clinical and forensic, and they go quite well together. So there's also quite a few forensic psychologists who will work in more typical mental health settings as well. So there's quite a few who work in hospitals, in inpatient wards, in community mental health outreach services, who are working with people with complex mental health presentations, but also who may have some forensic or law-related difficulties. I think some of the benefits of being a Deakin alumni, particularly for psychology, is around connection and networking. The further on I get in my career, the more I find that I need people who have other expertise than I do. I think psychology at times can be a bit compartmentalised, so there's people who have expertise in different areas, and I'm constantly trying to find a neuropsych or a clinical psych or an org psych. And one of the best things that I've found from Deakin is that I have those connections with some of those people that I went through uni with. But with the alumni, you just have access to so many more people. I also think the access to professional development is brilliant. Knowing the regulations around re-registering and making sure that you have all the CPD points you need Deakin have some brilliant people in place that are presenting such interesting and new research that often you don't really see. So I think the ongoing professional development you can get through the alumni is great as well.